Right, we ready. Assalamu alaikum, my esteemed brothers and sisters. MashaAllah, subhanAllah. I'm so happy to see all of you here today. Thank you so much for coming. Let's do a quick look at the attendee list. Who do we have here? Some from Canada. Oh, that'll be the McMaster Medical Group. New York, North Carolina, Panama, several from Birmingham, London. Oh, the UCL group. British Islamic Medical Association, India, Dubai, and Sydney. Subhanallah. So we're here to discuss the results of our trials and how we've designed and refined the Tayyib Counsellor program. Many of you participated with your expertise and others of you were in the trials themselves, and thank you so much, subhanAllah. I'm sure many of you have joined this journey and answered our first call all those months ago because you recognize the same problem and you want to do something about it. There's two things that are at stake here, and we're addressing them both. It's health and wealth, and by wealth it's both monetary wealth and community wealth. Health-wise, we're dealing with the obesity crisis. Why are we, as well-intentioned, hard-working Muslims, as fathers, as mothers, husbands, wives, not able to manage our weight and health? Why are obesity rates so high? Why do we have such a bad issue, particularly when, for all the consequences of poor nutrition, high body weight, poor lifestyles, we've improved in almost every other measure of wealth, safety, security, and disease management as globally? And the second issue is, that of economic difficulty, which is particularly relevant the last couple of years. People have noticed a sharp decline in household funds because wages have remained the same or dropped while prices have gone up. Many people lost their jobs in COVID, and I noticed that many people started Facebook businesses from home, making cakes or delivering goods and that sort of thing. And it struck me that nobody has scaled this principle to make it easier for Muslims as a whole to work together in some kind of community effort. And I myself started to wonder how I could make it work for someone who just wants to get on and do good for the community whilst earning some much needed cash. A lot of the people I see in my voluntary work, they are, mental health issues are related to poverty and so on. So this is also a direct mental health intervention, if you like. And the community wealth is that of community spirit. The COVID issue's legacy is that many people discovered how vulnerable we are to the consequences of loss of connection. We are social creatures. We struggle when we're not allowed or able to meet up, and we become accustomed or more used to bad habits or impulsivity, depression, anxiety, loneliness, scrolling social media endlessly, poor diets. And most of us will admit, even for those of us who haven't struggled with those things, weights have gone up all round. And as you're aware, I published Tayyib 2 years ago, and it has since gone on, fairly early on. It was an Amazon bestseller for a couple of weeks in its category, but that doesn't mean much because it was in the Islamic education category. And I'd like to think it was my amazing writing, but in fact it was undoubtedly because of the support of my old friend Mufti Menk, who I've known for many years. And you probably came across the interview that we had together in the hour-long live session, and that's on YouTube on his channel somewhere. And it's all about the Tayyib principle. And the Tayyib principle, now that we're at it, is straightforward. It makes permanent weight loss and stability much easier than doing things like diet and so on, because it's already written into the way Muslims are meant to conduct themselves. Everything from what we eat, when we should eat, when we shouldn't, where we source our foods, what kinds of food are Tayyib, what kind of behavior is Tayyib, what kind of attitude. This is already well described in Islam, but it's been many years since anybody organized it all into a guide and made a system out of it step by step to help them to implement it into their life, into their family's life. And the book was an effort to try and help with that. And this course, Counsellor course, is really the direct extension of that kind of work. It also strikes me that people can learn the skills of Tayyib to pass on and teach to others, and that in this kind of rapidly emerging modern economy, those with the right moves and the right positioning, without a lot of internet knowledge, can earn decent money using technology to help them do it. passive income where you don't have to actively keep making or selling things, and you aren't slaving away at the stove or in a factory. You can get on with your life, and at most you help support your clients, your customers, so that they can enjoy the thing that you've sold them or the thing that you're helping them with, right? And what better product than something that makes you healthier, happier, lose weight, and earns you blessings and goodwill from Allah, and gives you a way to engage your community around something good, right? Tayyib itself means something good and wholesome as a basic Arab word. So the Tayyib Counsellor program is itself Tayyib, I could say. Subhanallah. So how does it work? Well, we've created the course materials. So first of all, people get on and do the course themselves. And, for those of you who've contributed, you'll know what the course content is like and helped us to refine it for those of you who are in the trials. People get fully involved and they do it themselves, losing the weight, monitoring the results. And once they've done all the activities and passed through, they get a certificate. And we've also trained them in the meantime to be a Tayyib Counsellor. As a counsellor, the idea is that you have done the Tayyib program and you can then recruit other people to your own Tayyib modules, which are online. And we provide all that kind of stuff. But you earn money every time someone signs up to join your particular Tayyib page, and so they get a customer version of the Tayyib techniques and with all the stuff provided, and they'll get to lose weight and you get to earn money, and all you do to earn your money is encourage them along the way, keep in touch with them, support them, be available for them. The more successful of our sisters doing the trials found that they got many more sign-ups when they ran a WhatsApp support groups, and the most successful of all was the one who ran local groups where her clients met up in person. I think there were 2 of you groups who did that. And they met for coffee and salah, and they went over lessons. And I think it just generally felt good for people to have others share their journey. And it's so far fairly effortless from what I gather for people to run up their client numbers. Our highest performer got 80 clients, which meant, in theory, a huge, if the rates are as we imagine, they'll be about $1,600 for just signing people up. But the average I've seen is around 20 clients a month. So, look, let's not make it too complicated. We've made the program to be done and not talked about. We hope to have this ready sometime early in 2023. And we're offering the first rollout of the program at a deep discount just to cover costs and for the sake of Allah, because we want as many people to benefit as possible. And, we're just starting out. So hopefully we'll get some decent numbers and can refine the program even further. Ideally, we're hoping for a Ramzan start, but if not, that's fine. Allah knows best. And we hope the project will be self-sustaining. We're not asking you guys for money. You've done enough for us. Any income will make it, will help to make it free for the sisters who can't afford it. And we're imagining that we'll be, inviting sisters to pay, and their payment will help keep the upkeep costs of the program, and will go towards covering the costs of sisters who can't pay. So it should just end up being a nice even Stevens. So, of course, I've got to introduce myself. I know most of you know me, but some of you not so well. You might think, well, who am I to do this? Well, who am I? I'm TK Harris. I'm a neuropsychiatrist. I suppose I'm an expert of not much, if you ask my wife, but in real life, what am I? I'm an expert perhaps of managing the self, of managing one's mind, one's decisions, one's choices. And for the last few years, I've been refining and combining this with the Islamic perspective, which I found so satisfying, and written books about, and that's kind of my social media voluntary side of things. And we can see, I can see easily the connection between well-being and mental health and decision-making, and things like weight and nutrition, calorie intake, dietary choices, impulse control, stress. All of these things connect to health and connect to how a person deals with the world outside them, the information they deal with, the knowledge they have, the attitudes, and so on. With both men and women, weight control is a very big issue in happiness. We can't get away from that. And it's an issue in self-perception, in how outgoing people feel, in their social life, in their confidence. And it has associations with mental health and contentment, and even with social class. It used to be that the wealthier classes got overweight, but in the latter half of the 20th century and more recently, it's the poorer classes who seem to have the issue of weight gain, probably because food companies have made bad food so cheap. But so the book that I wrote describes how Islam and science have always had the real secrets on how to live well and control weight, and how things like temporary diets are doomed to fail, and that the Tayyib way of eating and food choice has stood the test of time dramatically well over the entire life of Islam, and in fact has enjoyed a resurgence in the last 15 years or so. It's as if the science, you'll see in secular communities, they talk about intermittent fasting, and for that the most common one is twice a week. Well, subhanallah, the sunnah for Muslims, as you're probably aware, is to fast twice a week. And the program itself so sets out to teach people really how to approach the Tayyib principle in a way that will keep them going. It's not just a temporary fix. It really is something which should help to adjust you to a kind of more satisfied life and a better relationship with food. You can set out asking good questions, because the Quran itself, we took our lead from that. The Quran is full of questions imploring us to reflect, to think for ourselves. So we borrow that technique, and we're hoping to set out to help people from among those who reflect. And reflection is a big part of the program, because it's the key to gaining better self-knowledge, and then better self-control, and a sense of being at peace with oneself. And it's not about things like getting rid of impulses to eat badly. It's about how to live with one's impulses and emotions in a way that is described to us by Allah in many ways, many times. We can't expect to be free from those sort of things. They're part of us. But we can grow our character to be more in command of them, to be more at peace with them when they come along, so they don't bother us as much. And that's the way we forge our better character. So we set off really to help clients answer two main questions. So anyone who wants to lose weight and keep it down and be happier and sort of invoke the Tayyib way, there's two questions. Firstly, are you able and willing to question your current beliefs about food and weight, what's healthy, what's unhealthy, what's hunger, what's good for you, and so on? And secondly, what is your motivation and what do you expect or hope for these changes to have on you when you are in control of your decisions and your weight and so on? And the elements that we look at can be described or contained within this picture here, which is that of a sort of general well-being in any person, any Muslim. And the Tayyib program works well because it is genuinely holistic. It's not just about food. In fact, you could argue that it's about everything else as well, because it looks at weight from a kind of full, sympathetic, generous perspective as part of a well-being of a human being. These are the things that help any Muslim feel a sense of inner wellness, relationships, mastery, purpose, confidence, joy, or autonomy. And you'll have probably read or seen my other work and books like Instant Insights, where I describe how these things can be found in Islam. And when someone's struggling, you always find something amiss in one of these areas, something that really bothers them, because these things underpin our general conduct. So we expect that as Tayyib counselors, Tayyib counselors are human beings. They're not professional counselors or psychotherapists. They are human beings with lived experience. They are Muslims, and their strength lies in their identity as people who share the common things, with their clients, and can help other people to face these things together. I mean, that's really where community is forged, in sharing the commonalities in difficulties and strengths, and exchanging those kind of strengths with each other. And community is a central reason why programs like this really work in the secular domain, especially where weight loss and fitness and that sort of thing is concerned. Helping people achieve good things and earning money from it, well, that's surely a wonderful bonus, and that's kind of the other big strand of the Tayyib Counsellor program. So to summarize, the program fits into the picture of those community organizers. That's kind of the Tayyib counselors. They learn something, then they have their own experience of that something using the knowledge, and then they share their experience in supporting others to achieve their own aims of that something, the Tayyib way, losing weight, being happier, being more confident, and so on. And the program covers all the working elements of understanding the thinking and knowledge behind Tayyib without being too academic. It's not really delving into the various Sufi sayings or the hadith as such, but it's a practical kind of how-to guide, connecting thinking to Islamic ways of life, making it relatable and useful for oneself, and then using it to make real-time, everyday changes, none of which is too scary, and none of which on its own is very difficult. Weight control need not be anxiety-provoking nor overbearing. It simply needs humble effort. If you focus on that, then every single day becomes a reason to be happier and more grateful, because you're not, being bullied by targets and whatever. You're just sort of saying, how can I do my best today? I accept my efforts. As for the program material, all of it is online. It includes video tutorials, articles, and stuff that we've now created. There's techniques, there's quizzes, there's assignments. So any participant takes them at their own pace. But generally, they're designed to take probably around 2 to 3 weeks to cover fully. And then the participant goes back and repeats them. The pace of coverage depends obviously on the person doing it. But from day one, participants have access to worksheets setting down their aims, their concerns, and they get some steps that help them go straight away with the weight control journey. As they go along, they'll be doing the techniques alongside learning the background knowledge and the background philosophy. And this helps them to create this feeling of mastery, the element of well-being that helps people to find meaning and worth. And then it also essentially extends that to include elements of purpose in life and of relatedness to others. Again, important elements of well-being, as you remember from the diagram. And people can access and repeat any module at any time. We've not made it sort of, demanding that you have to do this one and that one and you can't come back. No, it's from any device. And the platform, we picked a platform that works on phones and tablets, all of it, that shouldn't struggle with older phones and all that kind of thing. And the repetition element is really crucial because nothing is remembered fully when you first do it. And everything we learn is subject to forgetting. And learning something in the mind doesn't translate to actual change until we actually start practicing the change. It's a bit like saying if you learn how to ride a bike by just reading a book about it, then you wouldn't actually know how to ride a bike. So the program is not an intervention to make you to reach some sort of success point as such. It's more like a set of tools that you can then use forever or for as long as you like. And the set of tools is that of understanding spiritual psychology, understanding the self, and techniques. And the techniques help one to understand oneself better, understand Islam better, and in particular the Tayyib principles, and then to turn that into meaningful change, a way of improvement. It's about a way of being for oneself and then for one's brothers and sisters, to future clients as a whole. And this is really important to know. We don't expect that at the end of the program, participants will know everything they need to or achieve all of their goals. No, the tools are there to be used and refined, and as people repeat the modules, they will gain confidence and make them their own, because to use any tool properly, any questionnaire, any philosophy, you're using it properly when you've actually, it's taken your own language and you're able to translate it to a language at the level of your client, for example. And that's some of the skills of counseling that come with just general practice and gaining confidence through repetition. So the knowledge element of the course is mostly about these elements here. Firstly, how to start off with the right set of aims. Should we have targets? And if we should have targets, what should they be? What kind of things are we looking at? Should we be weighing ourselves, measuring our size, or should we have targets for the way we conduct ourselves, or dates, or whatever? And those sort of things are personalizable, both for the counselor program and for the clients, because people use different things to measure where they are, and some people avoid weighing themselves, and some people don't really care about weight. They just want to fit in their own clothes, for example. So we make this both specific and general because it's got to fit to the person. And then we go on to help people understand the basics of how the mind and body are connected using Islamic psychology. And, that covers a number of very interesting points of how hormonal control actually influences our cravings, how to deal with cravings, how to beat them, and things like true hunger and false hunger, which are very, very important to know. And I don't know if many of you know this, but actually most of the hunger we feel these days is actually false hunger, because true hunger only really comes if you've been starving for more than 48 hours, because that's how well fed we are in this successful world that we live in, subhanallah. And I'm sure, we know there's people who don't have food, so may Allah make it easy and help us to feed them and remember them too. And then we talk about eating in a better way. When, where, how, why. There's interesting findings there. Like, you can eat the same amount, but if you eat it slowly or at different times than your normal routine, it makes a real difference to the way your body handles it. So as an example of that, as unreal as it sounds, eating the same food but at different times, if you're eating it at 6 p.m. or eating it at 10 p.m., if you carry on that pattern, the people who eat earlier will lose more weight compared to those who eat the same amount later. It's fascinating, isn't it? It shows that calories are really not where weight loss is to be pivoted. Choosing better ingredients. Tayyib looks at what you buy in a more responsible way, makes you generally more mindful and caring about yourself, your body, that which Allah has loaned you. And then there's the element of fasting. Of course, fasting, if we can, and if Allah wills it, then we'll run the program in Ramadan. And fasting will be, it always has been a way to gain knowledge about the self, but most people don't quite get the insight into that, the real insight of the mindset and the processes that go on when we fast. We're taught that we fast, to sympathize with poor people and so on, but that's not quite true. And even if it was, it's certainly not the only reason or even the main reason that we fast. And connected to that, there's a sort of general mindset to take charge of one's health and one's decision in a way that's effective and not burdensome, not fighting yourself all the time and feeling guilty and exhausting oneself with these kind of self-blame, regret, and then relapse into eating excessively and so on. And that extends up to principles of things like akhlaq and our character. Ramadan is properly thought of as a time to focus on one's character, having principles of behavior that are integrated with contentment, with well-being and good character and other elements of our lives. So we come back to some of the things that we found are useful. And I mentioned earlier that we found that a group WhatsApp was very helpful. So we're going to have that when we roll the program out for the counselors. The first time it'll happen, it'll be run by one of our team admins here. And so all the participants will be allowed and enabled to communicate and participate in that WhatsApp group. And, they'll be free to say whatever they like. There'll be some ground rules about what to share and being appropriate and so on, along with rules about confidentiality. But beyond that, we encourage clients to use the chat because in our trials, everyone found it really helpful. Some of them connected online, as I said, and some connected in person. There was sisters in, I think, Australia and Manchester who met up with each other. And I'm sure people will form, much longer friendships, deeper friendships and connections based on this. The community element is key. It's got great benefits for directly on the Tayyib to help you keep your momentum, your motivation, sharing knowledge and tips, and also for being able to relate to your fellow human being in other domains. You may even decide to help and network with each other once you start earning. You might want to form a united business. I don't know, but who knows what goodness and what branches this will bring. But we want to make a chance for people to express their freedom and independent thinking about how they wish to style themselves once they've kind of completed the program. And that's kind of where we are, subhanAllah. I've talked enough for now, and I can see the questions accumulating in the chat window. So let's deal with them now, subhanAllah, and thank you for listening.